PJNet.TV 9:30 on the East Coast. It's time for part 2 with J.D. Wininger taking us on a tour around the Cross W. The bumper is running, background is ready, we are recording, we are streaming on 9 platforms, counting down to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to PJNet.TV for our weekly tour around the Cross W Ranch with the rancher himself, J.D. Wininger, standing by. We do this every Thursday night about this time. A special welcome to those of you in the PJNet.TV chat room. And if you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, we invite you to come join the fellowship there. You can watch the same thing and enjoy some wonderful fellowship. But that's not, no matter where you watch this, it's time to bring JD himself on here. JD, wake up now. It's time to get started. And you've had a long day. You kind of scared some of us the other day. And you okay?
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach. Yeah, I'm all right. Got a little health issue going on. Nothing God won't take care of. So we're going to get through it and be just fine. As long as I've got nitro handy, I'm a happy guy.
Well, that's I'm glad you've got it. Glad to have you with us.
Yes, sir.
You are in part 2 of a 2-part series, and
yes, sir.
Last week was beautiful. This week is probably going to be good, but not
so much.
The eye candy is not the same. It's
Miss Kelsey does wish that she could be here. Unfortunately, she's had a little accident and is not going to be able to make it. So I have reached out to her with prayers, and if she needs some help around the ranch, I said, I ain't real great, but I work cheap, so yeah, there for my friend if she needs it. But no, I wanted to, as Paul Harvey used to say, tell the rest of the story. It just, the article that she submitted to me that she wrote for her grandmother or to her grandmother was just too long to make a decent blog post. You know, if you got to spend 30 minutes reading the blog post, it's probably too long. So I broke it into 2
put what's
parts.
important at the beginning, because by the end
Yes.
they're not there.
But it's kind of like newspaper writing, isn't it, sir? But in any case, as last week we learned, those of us that were here last week or read the blog post, read she had this wonderful little calf named Gracie, and she just picked the name out of thin air, said, "You look like a Gracie." So that's often how we name cows. And you know, it's funny because there's not a lot of ranchers out here in this part of the world that name the cows. Most of them just have a tag in the ear with a number on them. And of course we keep meticulous records, and we know who the dam and who the sire was, and the date of the birth, and the weight, and the vaccinations, and all the particulars about any cow. But very few give them actual names. I can count them on the fingers of one hand. My friend Donnie, Miss Kelsey, myself, my buddy Gary names a few of his, but not all of them. But we do it because we realize that those cows aren't just a commodity. They're not just a stock item that, yes, we're raising them to make a profit from. But while they are in our care, we treat them to the very best of our ability, Coach. And I think we need to do that whether it's a kitty cat or Bubba the dog or 2,000-pound Maverick the bull. We need to make sure they are cared for, they're treated, they're loved, they're handled gently and respectfully. I see a rancher, the first thing he grabs when he gets out of his truck is a hot shot. I'm going, wrong move, guy. If you just work and go easy and push them up slow, them cows will do anything you ask them to do. It's all in how you handle them and how you condition them to be handled, right? But Kelsey does a great job with that. I believe she does better than me. In fact, some of you have seen the picture of Kelsey riding her spotter bull. So she'll go out to pasture. She'll just hop on Uno's back and ride him out. So she's a fun girl, but it just the thing that intrigued me the most. It was a wonderful testimony, a wonderful story, Coach. But the thing that intrigued me the most was to see this young person, and I look around the world today, and I look on any news channel at any time. I look on social media at any time, and you've either got trolls,
Mhm.
trollops, or trash. It's just
That
kind of
sounds
the
like a
three
sermon or a
categories.
blog coming up.
I'm sorry, buddy, but that's just how that's what the world wants us to see. That's what they show. That's young people all around the world. You see them
Mm.
protesting and setting up chop and jazz
Mhm.
zones and tearing down history and trying to erase history and remove the statues. And they don't know why they're protesting, but they're protesting because, by God, it's their right to. You know,
I don't know what I
and
believe in, but I'm ready to fight for it.
yes, exactly. And it's all about self, and it's
It
just
is.
such worldliness, and it's that humanistic view that I believe they've been brought up. That's what they've been taught. They've been
They've been
inundated
given
with it.
trophies for participating,
Yeah,
JD.
exactly. And when I look at them and I see them crying and everything. It reminds me of the kids the first day of kindergarten.
Hmm.
They can't have their way. They can't have the toy because Johnny has it. So
Hmm.
Sally goes off and pouts for 2 hours.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at these kids out there that are now 20 and 25 and things, and they're acting the very same way, Coach. And it just was saddened. It just burdened my heart. So when Kelsey, and I've known Kelsey for about 7 years now. I've watched her grow up in our church. She's moved to a different church with her family, but it's just wonderful to see young people that take responsibility, that do the right things for the right reasons. Kelsey won't tell this story on herself, but I'm going to tell it. We mentioned that she raises show calves, right? And these are high dollar cows, Coach, because the grand champion steer at the Fort Worth Stock Show this year brought, now he's 18 months old, and he brought $3.2 million, I think was the number. I mean, these things go for high dollars. Now he'll spend his life on a stud farm, right? They'll just harvest him for that. But these are expensive cattle. They take a lot of care, a lot of time. Just halter breaking a cow can take weeks and weeks and weeks. But you got to start very young when they're just little calves. Scratch your ears, get them used to being handled and being touched,
Hmm.
and then you can lay a bridle on them and or a halter, I should say. And then once you get them haltered, now you got to teach them to lead. And sometimes the best way to do that is with the donkey, believe it or not. They'll follow the donkey anywhere, but
Right.
that's a great way to teach them how to follow on a lead on a halter is to fix them to a donkey and just let the donkey go around in circles.
I'll be
And
darned.
that's how they learn to follow.
And that
But
donkey is a natural enemy of the coyote.
yes, he is.
So they're good to
Absolutely. You
have
better
around the
know it.
farm. Yeah. Mhm. I didn't know
Yes,
that. I
and
didn't know.
they don't like Bubba the chocolate lab dogs either. So
Okay.
Bubba usually rides in the ATV with me, but when I go into the pasture where Elpiece or Magic is, they'll get after him. So he just gets off and goes under the fence and waits. He's learned. But anyway, back to my little story about Miss Kelsey. She raises these beautiful high dollar show calves, and she's normally got calves sold before they're born.
Mm.
And I think last week she was a little late getting here actually because she had to wade into the pond and get one that didn't want to come out of the pond. So she had to wade in knee deep in mud and muck, in the bottom of the livestock pond to get this cow to get out of there because the cow had to be shipped to Rhode Island. She'd sold it in Rhode Island. So she's selling them all over the place, and they're that quality. But she always has a few that she doesn't sell. And something that she does now, she mentioned to you that her daddy kind of got her into doing show calves through FFA and different programs when she was a youngster, and she carries that tradition on. But sometimes it's tough to spend three, four, $5,000 for a show cattle. So she has some that she keeps trimmed and blow dries them and everything each week, and has them ready for the ring. But she teaches young people at no charge. This is just her time. She teaches young people how to show cattle, and she'll loan them a cow to go show. Now, there's no cost to them because she keeps the cattle there at the ranch and she feeds them and everything. But the investment of time and energy that this young lady puts into things like that, that's the kind of people that we need to see more of in this world. Those are the kind of young people that we need to be highlighting on the news media and in social media and different places. Show something other than CBS News in the last 30 seconds of their evening news broadcast. Oh, here's a neat thing, a heartwarming thing. But you've just spent 29 and a half minutes showing me murder and mayhem and chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to make it all better showing me a
Mm-hmm.
cute puppy video. It just doesn't work. But the world needs to see those examples. And I love the way that her grandmother and her mother and brothers and sisters have poured into Kelsey. And to see the young woman that she's become just does my heart good. It kind of restored hope, if you will, in the future. Because boy, if it's all up to these little namby-pamby panty waist up in Seattle, we're in a heap of trouble, Coach. This old world ain't going to make it. Now, it's not going to make it anyway, but we can be a far sight better off with people like that in leadership positions, and people like that to hold up so that the younger people can see that's how you're supposed to act. Kelsey works 3 different jobs, to be able to, I think she's 30 or 31, Coach, but to be able to have the acreage that she has, the cattle that she has, the things that she wants to accomplish in life, she's not afraid to roll up her sleeves and go out and go work and get those things. So she's always busy. She works 3 jobs. I can't say enough about this young lady. I would reckon, and of course I don't think she's watching tonight, but I would reckon if God had seen fit to grant me and Miss Diane a daughter, I'd sure want her to look at Miss Kelsey as a role model. That's the kind of people I think she is. But back to her story. I'm sorry. So she had Gracie the calf, and Gracie the calf grew until it got so big, and should have bred, didn't. 8 or 9 times it didn't breed, and she's just beside herself, and she's going, God, what's wrong with this cow? And then suddenly it turned to, God, what are you trying to teach me? So she started, rather than looking out at, it's everybody else's fault, it's the cow's fault, it's this fault, God, what are you trying to teach me? And she took and internalized that, and she prayed about it, and she came to see how important God's fellowship with her was, and that He's always here, and He's faithful to her, and she could count on Him to be there. Well, long story short, into part 2, goes along, still can't get pregnant, and she's 27 months old now, so normally most cows at 27 months old has already had a baby. So in fact, the baby's about ready to be weaned off of mama. Mama's no longer a heifer, she's a cow. And it just wasn't happening. So, but Kelsey started to look at Gracie not as just dumb old open cow that's just costing me feed every month and not doing anything else, but she started looking at her through eyes of grace. And she started to understand, okay, you're teaching me something else, Lord, and you're showing me what grace looks like. And she started to see that cow. Every time she'd look out, she'd see Gracie out there. She'd think about how God has moved her along, slow but sure. And every time she'd fail, God pick her back up and move on to the next step and take the next step. And is always there. And I thought that was a wonderful picture. But, what she found was peace, Coach. It was okay. I wasn't worried if that cow was ever going to have, because she brought me more blessings than she would have if she'd had a calf right away. So I really thought that was a sweet lesson that God had taught this young lady. But what was neat is she started looking at grace and understanding God's grace, and she started being able to apply that to others in her life. We all have disappointments. People disappoint us. Jobs disappoint us. We disappoint ourselves sometimes. But God's grace erases all of that. It doesn't remove it. It says it's okay, and we'll get through this. And that's the most beautiful thing about God's grace is He extends it to us. It's nothing that we can ever earn. People always talk about mercy and grace. Well, what is that? And a lot of new Christians never understand that. So when I try to explain mercy and grace, I try to explain you're caught speeding in a school zone, and you go to court, and you're ready for the judge to throw the book at you, and he goes, you know what? I understand you were late to work. We're going to waive the fine. Don't do it again. That's mercy, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Grace is, oh, by the way, there's a new car out in the parking lot awaiting you.
Right.
That's grace, right? You didn't do anything to earn that grace. Mercy is extended to you. Grace is a wonderful gift.
Mercy is not getting what we deserve. Grace
Yes,
is
sir.
getting that which we do not deserve.
Bingo. Yep. Very well said. But to see how God used this silly old cow to teach her how to do that, I thought that was something special to see. So she went from there and said, there's got to be something else for me to learn, So she started going through and still wasn't getting pregnant. But now she was okay with it. She wasn't worried about how many calves that cow's going to have. And when she quit worrying about it, a wonderful thing happened, right? The next month comes up and Gracie doesn't have a heat. So she gets excited and she pulls a blood test and she sends it off to probably Texas A&M, and they do a blood pregnancy test. And sure enough, a few days later, Gracie's pregnant, and so has beautiful little calf. Everything is great and things. But it's funny to see that is, patience is what she was learning. Just wait on God, We want God to give us what we want now. If we want God's best, we have to wait on His time and His idea of what it is we need, not what we think we want, right? It's a big difference. But I kind of liken this. Patience is one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And we heard Miss Karen talk about that in the earlier segment tonight. But something I've come to understand is that the spiritual fruit that God produces in my life, it has to mature before it can yield a harvest. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, I can go out back to my apple tree and pull off a pear apple and bite into it now, and it'll be just the most sour, bitter thing in the world. But if I let that fruit mature for another 60 days, that's going to make the best pear pie you've ever eaten in your life, Coach. It's just amazing. And it's a wonderful, to see how that happens. Well, the same thing happens in our lives when we are given fruit of the Spirit by the Holy Spirit, and then we allow that to mature. And Miss Diane, when she cooks, she makes her Sunday gravy, her pasta, and the tomato sauce and gravy, she calls it. But she says the flavors have to marry. So she puts all the things in. Of course, I want to taste the meatballs now, but no, you have to let it marry, and all the flavors come together. And the end result, well, you've seen me, Coach. You know what the end result of Dice and the gravy is. But it's wonderful to see how she's learned those lessons of patience and things, and how important it was not to give up on herself. Was something that she learned. Don't give up on others, and don't give up on myself. And I thought those were wonderful lessons that this young lady brought out in that article. So I was sure happy to be able to share that with you over the past couple of weeks.
Well, I'm glad you did share it, JD, and I've been making not written notes, but mental notes along the way. During the time that this Gracie was open, as you all say,
yeah,
the people that should know best are saying, get rid of that cow.
Oh yeah, she's a call. Just
yeah,
she's hamburger.
Damaged good. Yeah, damaged good. Get rid of them. But she listened instead to another voice, and that is noteworthy. Two other points that came to my mind as you shared that story. She told the story of how she got started in showing calves.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have a calf.
No,
someone
gifted to her.
Invested in her.
That's right.
Fast forward to today, she is now in a position to pay that forward, and she's doing it, and that is commendable.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the right things you're saying about some of the spoiled children that are now adults, they are the product of how we, our generation, raised them. We gave them trophies for losing. We put them in timeout instead of spanking their butts.
Yes, sir.
And this is what happens. We are all a product. And now you are investing in her, giving her a part of your platform. Folks, if we want to make a change, we can complain about the younger generation, and that complaining would be warranted and merited. It really would be. But are we willing to invest in the lives to make changes? See, we all want things, but we don't want to pay the price. Folks, we need to invest in each other. We need to invest especially in the younger generations when we can find that glimmer of hope. When I have said it this way, when I see smoke, I run toward it with a bucket of gas.
Yes.
And I think there are many, many lessons. Those are the three that I draw from, but there are others. But I happen to have the microphone, so I thought I paid for this mic, as a great president once said.
Now, Coach, I did have a closing thought. I know we're getting close to the end of our time this evening, but I was thinking about, for the past couple of weeks, what is the difference between Kelsey and the kid down the street. Now, I'm very blessed and very fortunate because I've got two kids down the street, Kirsten and Garrett. I've blogged about them in the past. They're rodeo superstars as youngsters. I mean, one's in the 8th grade, one's in the 10th grade, and they're winning more money in a weekend than I make in a year consulting. So, they're top shelf kids. But, and of course, I remember how they brought me a fruit basket over the Christmas holidays. And we just wanted to say thank you for being such a great neighbor. And that moves you. But when you see that, and then you see the kids on TV that we were talking about, and the spoiled little brats, pardon my French, but that's what they are. It reminds me of an acronym. You'll know this, Coach, as soon as I say it, because you're a programmer also. GIGO.
Mm-hmm.
GIGO, garbage in, garbage
Mm-hmm.
out. And along your lines of investing in our young people, it's what are we putting into them? Are we putting into them selfishness or selflessness?
Mm-hmm.
Are we putting into them integrity or energy? Are you a helicopter parent? Is your job more important than your kids? You know, what are you giving your kids? Because what you pour into them is what's going to come out in the world. And unless God can get a hold of them later in life, like He did me, and dig out all the gunk and the muck and the junk, and refill it with mercy and grace and love and things, then there's no hope for our future. So really stop and think about. I know most of us here on PJ Net are getting a little bit older. Of course, now Miss
It's
Tammy,
fourth
some
quarter.
of those aren't here yet. Yeah, it's fourth quarter. For a lot of us, we're in overtime, Coach. It feels like. But think about your children, your grandchildren. What are you pouring into them? Uh, it's so important that we understand we have so much more impact as adults, as older adults. Uh, People think, God, we're not going to listen to this silly old codger. Just humor him for 20 minutes on a Thursday night. But truth is, there's a lot more takeaway, and especially when they're young children, your grandchildren or great grands for some of us, they're sponges, Coach, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
absorb and they'll take those. And I can honestly tell you, there are lessons from my dad, my granddad, and my great granddad that I remember. Some of them good, some of them bad. But I remember those lessons even when I was just a little guy, and it makes all the difference in the world, Coach. So think about what we're pouring into our future.
Been really rich tonight, JD. I know we're over the allotted time, but I really
Sorry, buddy.
no, it's one of those things. Sometimes you really do feel, the spirit moving, and I want to share a story about investing in young people. Um, I was appointed. This will be a long story, folks. So if you need to go home or go pee pee or something, go do it. I can't help it. But
If you got to leave, thank you, folks. Love y'all.
the RAs, Royal Ambassadors. Think of that as church Boy Scouts in Southern Baptist life. It's just kind of like Boy Scouts. Well, every church has a little RA thing, and it's young boys. And to be honest, when I was first appointed to lead this group, it, like many other churches, was essentially a babysitting time so that the moms and dad could practice choir. Honestly, that's what it was. But for some reason, I just took it more serious than that and took this group of kids and just invested in them, and well, tried to understand, whatever. Well, that little group of 4 turned into 14, turned into 24, to the point that the deacons approached me and said, they're getting unruly, and I asked, are you willing to help? I'm up there with 20 kids by myself, I mean, what are you going to do? All right, well, that's the backdrop. That's the stage. That's the setting.
Okay.
One of these young men, one thing I did that had never been done, probably hasn't been done since, is I took 2 of those boys, 12 years old, on a mission trip overseas.
Mm.
Well, fast forward a few years, and one of the RAs that I had care of during that time came to actually speak at our church as the Sunday morning message, and he's a fine young man, just a wonderful young man that's grown up. And I wasn't there. I forget where I was that Sunday, but I was not able to be there, and I really wanted to see Jarek. But he did give me a cassette tape Remember those? And I remember driving, and I put that cassette tape in, and what he did, instead of just preaching a regular lecture type sermon, he sat there and enumerated the heroes in our church that had helped him along, that had invested in him.
Yes.
And he's moving along chronologically through the years, and boy, I've got my ear really tuned in because it's my turn. It's coming up. I took this kid to Barbados on a mission trip. I mean, I've outgunned him all.
Yeah, you're king, right?
Yeah, I play to win, and he didn't mention me. And I thought I must have missed it. I rewound the tape and I played it again and again and again, and that flesh in me was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Mm.
God really got a hold of me.
Good.
Because he said, "You know, Mark, there's another kid in your RAs that's in jail today. You want to take credit for Jarek? Are you willing to take the blame?"
That's right.
That was very humbling.
Yes,
And
sir.
I knew at the end of the day, it's our flesh that wants that, But I had another conversation earlier. And I think we're going to have to end on this, but I had a conversation earlier. There is a fundamental need out there. And if somebody is alive, they need this as much as they need oxygen, whether they are saved or lost. We all need affirmation.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to affirm someone? Nothing. And we get on social media, and I see posts. Social media was once described, and I think this nails it, a place where everybody wants to be heard, but nobody wants to listen. JD, you are among the champions of people who invest time purposefully, reading blogs, and then commenting and reposting. Folks, that's an investment we all can make, and I fall far short. But folks, what does it cost to just say a positive and sincere affirming, and you have testified, JD, to me, and here on in public, that you actually have read the blog before you comment on it. You don't just put out, have you ever gotten more likes on a video than you've gotten views? Does that tell you something?
Yeah.
Fake likes. Okay. Folks, I think there's a lesson in this for all of us. And I hope that you have enjoyed the time we've spent together here tonight. And I hope God has spoken to you tonight as we fellowship and get together tonight the way he has for me. And JD, thank you for sharing. You're a good storyteller, and you're a good man. And I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. You get what you give, Coach. You get what you
go.
give in this life, and I am blessed beyond belief, buddy.
Well, you have given much.
Folks, thank you for hanging in tonight. We appreciate you. God bless.
All right, good night. All right, that was a great trip around the Cross W Ranch, and thank you all for staying a little that I'm very excited about. I shared with you a little glimpse of it at 9 o'clock last night, but we are continuing to make progress. I am setting up an experiment that we will be conducting next week, and I'm just anticipating some very good things happening to project the gospel message out there. Okay, and I'm just tickled about it, and I'll obviously bring you up to date as we roll this out. If you are watching this and you are a Christian blogger and you blog on a weekly basis or even monthly, but as long as it is regular and as long as that blog is in the 600 to 700 word range, and as long as you have a mailing list of subscribers, we are seeking some beta testing individuals that meet those criteria. And we have something that, if I am right, and my research, I'm pretty confident in what I'm seeing. If I'm right, this could be a game changer in ministry for your blog. And my ministry is to help yours. So I'd love to hear from you. Okay, time to go. I'll leave you with two questions, which are to set up a challenge. The first question is, what is the boldest thing you've ever done for Jesus Christ? The second one is, how long ago was that? If we're going to win, if we're going to hear, well done, my good and faithful servant, I believe that we must never allow ourselves to be satisfied with either answer.